Now let's look at the second part of the lecture on basic instructions. And on this one, what we're going to do is we're going to do two specific instructions, and then we're going to look at one example with triangles. And if you want to know where this is found in your book, this is found in section 3.8, pages 181 to 183. And the first example that we want to do is we want to look at the problem of constructing parallel lines. So let's say that what we start with is we start with a given line, and what we want to do is construct another line that's parallel to that line. So the first thing to do is have to remember what we're talking about parallel lines. Parallel lines are lines that coplanar lines that never intersect. They're going to have the same slope. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take and put a point anywhere you wish, as long as it's not on the line. And then what you're going to do is you're going to draw a line through that point and through the line. And you can draw it at whatever direction you wish to draw it. So let's review again. First, you have a line, and you want to draw another line that's parallel to that line. So you simply draw a dot, point, and draw a line that goes through this point and crosses this line. So you remember that is called the transversal. So what we're going to do here is we're going to measure any amount. It can't be too far or too short. So if it doesn't seem to work, just erase it and start over. And you're going to draw an arc so that it crosses both your transversal and your original line. And then keeping it the same distance. That's the key. Keeping it exactly the same distance. You're going to draw another one here at the top. Same kind of arc, right? Does that make sense? So now, if you notice, what happens is this arc is going to cross the original line, and what you're going to do next is you're going to measure that distance. Wait, no. What you're going to do next is from the intersection of that arc and the transversal, you're going to measure the distance right here. And you can draw a line right there. Now what you're going to do is you're going to go up to this new arc where there's not a line, put it the same place, and see where that intersects. And if you notice, you get a new point right there. And then you're going to take your straight edge and connect those two dots. And when you do that, what you end up is two parallel lines. So basically what you do is you have this line here, and this original line are your two parallel lines. Let's do another example of that one. So where do we start? We start off with some line. And what we're going to do with that line is we're going to put a point, and the point can be anywhere at all. And then you're going to draw a line that goes through this point, through this line. You could draw it more or less perpendicular if you wanted to, or you don't have to, it doesn't matter. And when you study parallel lines, remember this is just called the transversal. Now what you're going to do is you're going to draw an arc of any length. Don't make it too big or too small, but draw that. Draw your arc. And what it's you want to draw it so that it crosses your original line and your transversal. And you want to draw another one with the new point as well. Alright, so what's the key here? The key is that both of these have the same length here. Now, where on the original arc it crosses the transversal, you're going to measure where it crosses the original line there. That distance right there. And they're going to replicate that from the top here, right there. And you'll get a point right there. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take your straight edge and you're simply going to connect those 2 points, and that's going to give your 2 parallel lines. And that's how you do perpendicular lines. Parallel lines. So now the next step we want to do is we want to do perpendicular lines. So remember what perpendicular lines are. Perpendicular lines are 2 lines, 2 intersecting lines, that form a 90-degree angle. It turns out that if they form one 90-degree angle, they'll end up forming 4 90-degree angles. So where do we start here? We start, what are we given? What we're given here is we're given some line. And what we want to do is draw a line that's perpendicular through this line. So the first thing I'm going to do is somewhere along this line I'm going to put a point. And it turns out it doesn't matter what point you choose. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure some distance out. Again, not too far, not too much. And if it seems like you drew a line that's an arc that's too big or too small, you can just start over. So what do we do here? We just pick, we have a line. We pick any point on the line and we draw 2 arcs at equal distance. Now where they intersect there, we're going to notice that point of intersection. And then we can either use the same distance or we can make it a longer distance or shorter, it wouldn't matter. You're going to, from each of these points, draw another arc. Now the problem is that it's going to have to be long enough, so it actually can't be the same distance. It has to be longer than the original arc that we drew. So just expand a little bit and draw an arc. And another one over here. You could draw it down if you want to too, but you won't need to. If we do that, those 2 arcs, so that they're equal distance, you'll get another point. And if you connect that point with the original point, then what you'll do is you'll form a perpendicular line. If you measure this, this would be a 90-degree angle. Turns out that all 4 of these angles would be 90-degree angles. And that's how you draw a perpendicular line. Just to make sure that we understand what we're doing here, I'm going to do the problem again, but we're going to do it a little slightly different angle. Let's do an angle like that. Let's draw a line perpendicular to that. Let's go through the steps one by one. So you're given a line, and you want to draw a line perpendicular. So it's a construct a perpendicular line. The first thing you do is choose any point on that line. Then you're going to set your compass to a fixed amount. It doesn't matter how far. And you're going to draw an arc on each side. Later in the class we'll find out that there's some theorems that explain why this works. Once we do that, we get 2 points. Now those 2 points are both equal distance from the original point. Now what we need to do is use a distance, use our compass and expand it. Make it bigger. It doesn't matter how much bigger, but it has to be bigger. Make it a fair amount bigger. Start from one endpoint and draw an arc. And then start from the other endpoint and draw an arc. Those 2 arcs will intersect and form a point. Now if you draw a line from the original point to that point, then what you'll end up with is a line that's perpendicular to the original line. to see if we're doing, let's look at a specific problem. So we're given a triangle ABC, and we want to find the midpoint of AC and then draw a line through the midpoint and parallel to AB. So you have something, I'm going to draw a little more careful in a second, but you have something that looks like this. This is A, this is B, and this is C. We want to find the midpoint here, wherever that happens to be, and then draw a line that's parallel to this other side. And part of the reason we're doing that is that's going to be a theorem that we're going to do later. Let's just draw that through. So first let's draw their triangle fairly carefully. The advantage of this is going to use all of our different constructions. Not all of them, but some of our different constructions. So let's say this is the given, A, B, C. So the first thing is let's find the midpoint between these two. The way we do that, remember, is we let's make our compass so it's more than half. Go here and here. Here and there. And if you notice what happens is we end up with a point here and here. We draw a line between those two. That's going to give us our midpoint right there. It's actually going to be a perpendicular bisector, but it doesn't matter that it's perpendicular. The key is that this point is the midpoint between those two. Now what we want to do is we want to draw a line that's parallel to this line and goes through this point. First thing we do is we draw an arc here. Right? And then we draw the same arc here. Right? Two identical arcs. Now we're going to, from the line that we have, we're going to take the intersection. This becomes our transversal. The intersection there, we're going to measure this distance right here. And then we're going to make the same cut here. Alright, so what is it? This distance and this distance are the same. That gives us a point there. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line between those 2 points. And if you notice, what we've done is we've taken this triangle and we've drawn a line that's parallel to this side that passes through the midpoint here. It turns out, we don't know this yet, but later we'll find out that these two are the same as well. Anyway, that's part 2 of constructions.